Hello, folks, and welcome to another exciting episode of West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer David W. McNealy III, and this is my partner,
Officer Zena Dailey.
Guys, we've got a very exciting guest to bring to you today from our very own department. It's Officer Joseph Miller.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe.
Nice to meet you.
Officer Miller, why don't you hang tight with us for a minute
All right.
while I flip the show over to Zena's Daily on the Daily.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Daily on the Daily. We're going to start with Ask a Cop a Question. This question came from Stephanie in West Bloomfield. How much does all your equipment weigh? An average about 25 pounds. That's with our uniform, our belt, sometimes it's up to 30 pounds. Yes, sometimes it is uncomfortable. It does include our vest as well. Sometimes it is uncomfortable, but we do get used to it. So Stephanie, thanks for the question. For the rest of you, like us on Facebook, send a question our way, and we'll try to get you on here as well. Now we're going to talk about some safety tips for women. So I work midnight patrol, and I see a lot of people out at night, a lot of women out at night, and there's some important things that you want to know when you're walking alone or you're doing your jogs. Don't distract yourself on your cell phone. That's probably the number one thing. You want to be very aware of your surroundings. If you do have your cell phone in hand, you have it with you, preset 911 on your cell phone just in case something does happen, that you'll have easy access to it, and you can just push that one number, it goes right to us, and we'll be able to try to get there as quickly as we can. When you're getting in your car, you want to make sure, and I actually do this when I leave for work every night as well. You check your car before you get in. I always take a glance at my car to see if there's anybody inside. And once I'm in, I also kind of take a look around just in case I miss something. When you're parked, if you're parked in a parking lot that's next to, when you come back to your vehicle and there's a van parked there, if you feel like something doesn't feel right, enter your vehicle through the passenger side. That way, no one can grab you from the driver's side, where they can just exit their passenger side. And another thing to be aware of is if you're leaving the mall late at night, if you work at the mall and you're leaving late, go to the security office and ask that someone actually drive you or walk you to your vehicle. Now we're going to move on to, a lot of us travel for work and we're put up in hotels. So some things you want to be aware of when you're there. When you check in, a lot of times the clerks are actually going to tell you your room number out loud. There's a lot of people in line behind you. They don't know if you're traveling alone or if you're not. So just in case, make sure you tell the clerk that you don't want them to say your room number. Just give you the key, and they could usually write it down on the envelope. Also, when you're walking to your room, be very aware if there are people following you or lingering in the hallways. And then lastly, right when you get into your room, lock your room door and use the actual chain link or the little slot that goes over to the other side to lock it. And before you open your actual door, for anyone, if you call for room service or ask for something that you need to get fixed in your room, make sure you know who's on the other side before you open that door. Look through the peephole. If you do have that chain link, you can open just to see who it is, verify they are who they say they are before you let them in. And then some other situations that we're put in just to be, to be safe, to be very careful of. When you're in public or at a department store and we give you give your information out at a drugstore, sometimes you're gonna get a prescription, they ask for address, some personal information. Be careful how loudly you're speaking because you don't know who's around you and who's paying attention, who's writing things down. So say it quietly or give them your ID. That way they can just put it into the computer without having to actually ask you or without you having to say it out loud. And if someone does grab you when you're out and about, scream stop, yell, try to draw as much attention to yourself as possible. And of course, always look into taking self-defense classes. That is very helpful. Be careful when you're on Facebook, when you're checking into places, you're basically telling people that you're not home. So when you check into MJR, you're telling them that you're not home right now, you can go into my house and I'll be there shortly. So be very careful when you post stuff, when you're checking in on social websites. And if you think that you see someone else that might be in danger, if you even question it, you're just not sure, it's better to be safe than sorry. Call 911, let us figure it out. Let us help whoever you think it is that's in danger. And that's a wrap. Dave, back to you.
See, that's a lot of good information. I've checked in before, and I've never thought to tell them not to give the number for the person that might hear from behind me.
Great.
Thanks for the information. I'm
You're
sure
welcome.
the residents and viewers appreciate that very much. Officer Miller, hang tight with us. We'll be right back with you. Folks, we're going to take a short station break. We'll be right back.
You're watching West Bloomfield 911 on Civic Center TV, a service of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. For more information or to watch episodes on demand, visit civiccentertv.com/WB911. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
After the tragic loss of an officer in the line of duty, Michigan Concerns of Police Survivors provide support to surviving law enforcement families and co-workers. To learn more about My Cops and upcoming events, Or for information on how you can help, visit micops.org or call 877-464-2677.
Folks, welcome back to West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer David W. McNealy.
I'm Officer Zena Dailey.
Officer Miller, welcome back.
Thank you. So it's good to be here.
Thank you.
Yep. You can just call me Joe too, by the way. Just keep it, we're relaxed here. We're all friends.
Well, that's good because Officer Joe and I have worked together for a while. Officer Joe, what do you do currently for the police department?
Well, right now, I am a taser, patrol pistol, patrol rifle, honor guard, Sims instructor. These are all my instructor capacities, as well as I'm one of the CIT trained officers for our department as well.
That's kind of what brought you here today. I'm on the honor guard, folks that you don't know, but Joe and I have been on the honor guard unit together, and so we've got a great relationship there. But one of your other specialties you just mentioned was CIT. What does CIT mean?
That's crisis intervention. So I've actually been trained in both the adult and the youth side of more or less dealing with individuals who are in crises, if it's due to mental illness or if it's due to like some sort of drug exposure or
So
usage.
Z has that same training too, right Z?
I haven't taken the youth training, but I have taken the initial training 40-hour course. How did you feel about it?
Honestly, you always kind of like use a little bit of it in police work as like on a whole when you first
Right.
started out, but actually going through the actual formal training and being able to kind of like recognize signs and cues. I know definitely after we went through the course, I've used it, I would say, every day since
Right.
then, because you're just picking up on cues, and a lot of times you're able to diffuse situations a little bit quicker to prevent it going to like a physical, you know.
Who puts that on? Who offers the?
It's actually through the county. The county mental health system is the one that actually organizes it, and they have kind of the head guys. He's out
I
of
think it's free for all officers, is it not?
Correct.
And they offer
Correct.
that there's a
Right.
grant that they try to give that
Yeah.
out to,
Yes.
right? Because I know
Yes.
you and Z and I think Sergeant St. Germain and some other officers have been through it, and I think our department is going to make it something that's mandatory.
Right.
Now, do you think it's something that's worthwhile?
Absolutely. It's one of those things where you can, until you actually get into the training itself and actually start doing it, people always kind of, you know how we are as cops. We're like,
Right.
we don't want to do this. This is,
Yep.
this is
No, we
garbage.
don't
I don't
do
want to
that.
do that, But honestly, it's one of those, I would say that CIT is definitely one of those trainings that just being able to de-escalate a situation, and it doesn't have to get to a use of force or to where you have to physically start controlling
That's a
people.
big thing, isn't it, Z? Because you've gone through it
Absolutely.
too, right? You both, folks, I got to tell you something too. These two are from the same P pod. They both worked in Pontiac together,
Yep.
and I know
Sure
there are
did.
some situations in Pontiac that might have been a little bit more aggressive, maybe than sometimes we have here in West Bloomfield.
Right.
So both you guys having the ability to use something other than deadly force or physical force is a huge thing, right, Z?
Right, and we received as many mental health calls there as we do here. And that training was so amazing. I do wish we would have even had it there. You start off so young, and you're an FTO, Joe. So
Yeah.
you do get a lot of young officers that come in through here. We're doing a lot of hiring recently. And how do you feel like you're able to teach these new young trainees? What are you giving them? What kind of tools are they using? Oh, go ahead.
First, no, it's okay. But first, you said Z, he's an FTO. What's an FTO for the viewers?
Yep, sorry.
It's a field training officer. So what we do is as new officers or new hires come in, they're usually put with a senior officer or a field training officer. We have actually 4 steps. We call them phases, 1, 2, 3, 4. With their 4th phase being more or less their original phase 1 trainer. It's kind of for that trainer's then to evaluate what kind of officer they're going to be, and are they able to go and run.
Z was saying
solo
about
car.
what do you show them with your crisis intervention training? Because you're a field officer, so sorry to interrupt you.
It's okay, and really, how important is that for us? Because you start off so young, and you're very gung ho, and you have this TV image of police,
Right.
And when you really train on the
I think
road,
we've
it's
all
different
done
than
it,
that. It's very
so.
different, right? So,
Absolutely.
how important is it for you as the FTO to teach them this?
Well, for me, and you can ask any of the recruits that I've trained, I tell them from day one, the 2 most important things to me is your officer safety and your communication. And
Absolutely.
CIT is literally your communication. I always tell all my recruits that based off of how your communication skills are, you are literally setting up the next officer that person's going to come in
Yes.
contact with. If you treat somebody like garbage, the next officer maybe is the nicest officer, and all of a sudden, this person, because how they were treated the first time,
So you're saying
is
our
now
contact is going to be
fighting.
a negative
So,
contact.
Right.
If an officer
Correct.
mistreats someone verbally or, God forbid, physically,
Correct.
they're creating a situation that's going to be potentially dangerous for us because it's going to be a negative contact.
Right.
And we might not be able to elicit the information we need out of somebody with a negative contact from an officer.
Well, there's that, and plus, too, I mean, let's be honest, everybody has cell phones with them, and West Bloomfield has done a very good job with training us, with giving us opportunities to go to various trainings, so
Definitely.
that we're not on Fox 2 or Channel 4 or Channel
Right.
7 as being that one where the community is going, what is that officer doing?
Right.
So that's, CIT
And
literally.
you're proud of that fact, right? I know I am.
Absolutely.
Oh,
I'm
I
absolutely.
absolutely, yeah, I would, yep.
Yeah, so no, I definitely am glad that I do work for this department, that is such a, the standard here is high, because I am one that holds my recruits to a high standard. I hold myself to a high standard.
Yeah, I'm a field training officer
So-
myself, so yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's super important because of the relationship that we share
Right.
with our residents. So CIT for you guys, because we titled the show "Mental Health Through an Officer's Eyes." Me personally, I'm yet to go through the training, but I know I'm going to be scheduled to go. My first thoughts are, having some crime prevention background a little bit that I do, is when I go to a mental health call, I'm going to be looking for Z or looking for you because you guys have a specialty that I don't have and able to recognize. So can you guys touch about what you recognize on certain calls?
Joe, would you say that patience has a lot to do with it? It's our delivery and our patience.
That hits it right there on the head. I mean, you can be the most trained officer, but if you don't have the patience and the delivery
Right.
technique,
That's so important.
And I've actually been on scenes where, if I hear a mental health call come out, I usually start trying to go that way,
Right.
knowing that I'm one of only a couple officers on our shift that has been that specially trained, especially if it's dealing with the youth, because I think I'm only one
Right.
of 3 that have
Right.
actually had that training. So I always start trying to kind of head that way, and it's not that the officer there has had bad communication. It's just they're not understanding where the person is at, and that's really what crisis intervention training is just being able to work in what that person's reality, no matter how construed it may
Right.
be,
Now,
it's what their reality is.
You say reality. What type of reality? And I'm gonna press you guys on this because I want you guys to educate me because I haven't gone to the training yet. The crisis intervention means what? Mental health. What type of mental health situation is an autism? I mean, what does that mean for you guys?
And that's the nice thing.
What does that mean?
That's
It's
the
a
nice thing with the
range.
crisis intervention training is that we studied autism, we
Right.
studied paranoid schizophrenia, bipolar. All the
Is this
stuff
also like
that's
a
there.
suicide type intervention as well, guys?
There is some suicide components to it as
Right.
well.
You can really, all the training that we received, you could utilize in the same situation as someone who wants to hurt themselves or claim that they want to commit suicide. It's what the way active listening skills is the most important thing, and that's really what they harp on. What they're really teaching you is active listening skills, and that's what we actually implement. And when you take that, not just with mental health, but with someone who just makes a threat, sometimes it's an idle threat. Would you agree?
Yes.
And we have to explain how important that really is, and what our job is, how we have to handle that.
And sometimes too, I know, especially like in youth, they'll make a comment, they'll make a statement, and it's not necessarily that they want to hurt themselves, but it's that cry out. And I think
Right.
as CIT really kind of helps you focus in on, okay, is it a crying out aspect thing, and is there something that you need to start digging deeper? And again, as officers, the mental health thing is one that has never been really a huge factor in this. I can speak for the 18 years that I've been a police officer. In the beginning of my career, mental health was like, okay, yeah, you just load them up and go take them to
Right.
the hospital, and that was it. Where
That's how it
now,
was when I started. We
Right.
just
Yeah.
literally, it was something we dreaded going to.
Yep.
We weren't educated on it, and quite frankly, we weren't prepared for it, and
Right.
we treated them like we would someone that robbed the bank.
Correct.
And now that I found over the years of working here, which I'm
Right.
so happy about, being educated, an educated police officer makes me better,
Right.
makes me safer, and it also enables me to give good service to somebody that doesn't need to be in the back of my patrol car going to
Right.
jail.
Right, yeah.
Instead,
Right.
you guys would agree, yeah, that
Yes.
they need to go get some form of treatment.
Right.
So I'm kind of excited to get to CIT, and that's why I'm so happy that you guys can share this information with residents, because in my mind, you're better trained, you're better trained. If I go to a call and someone is acting a certain way, you guys can recognize
Right.
that, and that's
Right.
going to prevent an officer from physical violence,
Right.
right?
And a lot of things, the biggest thing with this training, and the reason why it has become such a big push is because just with the advancements in medicine and
Yes.
labeling and the testing and stuff like that, you're able to start to pick up. We were just talking right before the show. When we were growing up, there wasn't a lot of like mental health per
Right.
se, and now it's like there's everybody has some sort of mental health
Yeah.
issue. It seems like, and it's like it really is just being able to recognize where that person's at, like what they call them crises. What crisis is that person doing? Is it self-inflicted? Is it medication inflicted? Is it they're using some sort of illegal drug? Is it they're not taking their medicine? And so being able to come in there, and when I say dealing with them with what their reality is that kind of a quick example is that we're sitting here at a table, we're talking to one another. Well, for them, it could be voices that they're hearing, it could be visions that they're seeing. They might not see, Dave or Zena in a police uniform. It could be, Satan to them. It could be,
Right.
A ghoulish monster, and it's being able to try to work through that with them to a point to where you're able
Is
to
that
build that
patience thing
trust.
you were
And
talking about?
absolutely, and because you want to get them somewhere safe, what are some of the resources that they gave? What is the best resource for us to use in these situations to offer
Everybody,
residents?
the residents all think that if the police come, we're going to take them to Henry Ford Hospital.
Right.
That is actually kind of my last resort, to be honest with you. Or if it's I will only take them there if it's something that they have physically hurt themselves where they need the medical attention. Common Grounds is actually our big one that we've started going to. We actually learned in our CIT training
Right.
that they actually got federal money, like $250,000 worth of federal
You got
money.
a grant, right? I think
Yeah.
you got a
Yes, yeah, and that they have well over 200 programs they can put into place. So
So
it could be
amazing.
from somebody who's completely off their medication, who's in what they call an excited delirium or in a serious mental state, all the way to somebody who just doesn't feel like they fit. There's so many programs in between that spectrum that we get them out there. We actually, and that's the nice thing about Common Ground too, is it's kind of set up almost like a college dormitory.
Right.
It's very welcoming. It's very come in, sit down.
Right.
We're going to talk. They have the private aspect of it too. They have the individual rooms and stuff too. But it's definitely one that is it almost encourages you to talk.
And what they do too, which is really nice, is after you've utilized their resources and they think, okay, now we can refer you to this source. You
Yes.
have an avenue. You have somewhere to go. These parents with young kids that have mental health issues and they don't know what to do or where to turn. Common Ground really does tell you what resources you have, what you can use.
Correct.
What do you think? What do you think? When we get our suicide calls, we do get a lot of those too.
Yes.
How do you think it's helped us with that? Our CIT training has helped us handle those types of runs.
Well, actually, I had one not too long ago where a young man had called and made some overt actions and stuff like that, and I was the second officer that arrived. So then, of course, the family's upset. He's kind of barricaded himself in, so on and so forth. And so I was able to relieve the initial officer because just listening to him talk, he was kind of at the point where he was like,
A lot of words.
he's not responding to me. So I was able to kind of come in, not take over the scene, but I was able to assist that officer to where that officer kind of slid back into more of a secondary officer where I took primary, and ultimately I was able to get
And sometimes that's the best thing to do is when you
Correct.
know that you are not, the person you're trying to talk to is not responding to you, you want to remove yourself, and if there's someone
Yes.
that's better fit for that, then let them take over and maybe they can create a rapport, a better relationship, and try to help this person understand what we need to do to try to get them as much
Right.
help as
Do you guys
possible.
think it makes you more, not that you're not both compassionate people, I'm sure you're both compassionate people, but us as police officers, we we don't always see the most positive side of people. Do you think the CIT training makes you guys a little bit more compassionate? For example, you guys have just mentioned a suicidal person that feels that low in their life that they're at that point. We have to keep in mind, at least I try to, and I know you guys do the same thing, that there's a relative or a loved one on the other end.
Yes.
So
Right.
this training that you guys, this specialized training that you both have, gives you a perspective of not only the person that's feeling down that particular day, but their loved ones. Talk about that.
I'm going to go ahead, Joe. Why don't you want to start?
No, go ahead.
Actually, I'm thinking of a situation we were both on together. And this deals with autism, actually. And there was a boy that he was I think a teenage boy. So he was even bigger than his parents. Actually, I want to say it was an aunt and uncle that were taking care of him. And they just had their hands full. They weren't sure how to calm him down. They usually have some good techniques, but it wasn't working. And honestly, Joe, and he was almost violent. He wasn't violent towards us, but he was on edge. He was on edge for sure.
Yeah.
And Joe was able to get in there and honestly calmed him down. I mean, it took a little bit of talking, and then with Joe's calm tone and just your delivery again, which the patients and the delivery, you were able to bring him down, and we were able to help them.
Yeah, and that's really the biggest thing is that what I'm finding out, and a lot of times, and this will come with CIT, is that when we first get there, one of the first things we do is we kind of get with the parents, the loved ones, or whatever, and we kind of do this about a 30-second bam, 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 like question of what's going on, so we kind of have a grasp of what's going on. And a lot of parents, a lot of loved ones are really kind of nervous to even say it and tell like the dispatcher or whatever.
That's that stigma.
They don't want the stigma
that's associated with mental health or someone that might feel suicidal, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing of it is that that's the information that we need to know. And if it's given to dispatch, let's say if I'm tied up on something or I'm busy on something, if I hear that come out over the radio, I'm going to clear what I'm doing, because I already am able to kind of formulate my game plan. At the same time, while I'm en route, the CIT officers are able to kind of direct the officers who are on scene, like, hey, do this, do that, and kind of going back to our suicidal that I dealt with. I was able to talk him down to a point to where he ended up putting down a weapon. He ended up coming out, and we just kind of again remove him from that source, and we were able to sit there and started talking. He just breaks down, starts crying. That's what you want. If you can get to that point to where the person themselves who's in crises kind of breaks down, and just they kind of, and that's that vulnerable point. And then, but at the same time, as an officer, you have to be prepared for that. To when somebody breaks down, and starts crying, that you're able to kind of almost, I won't say empower them, basically scoop them up. You're okay. Let's get you here. Kind of almost not physically, but almost like that mentally, emotional, like just hug them and say, okay, let's get you where you need to go.
And with that compassion, sometimes when we're in situations, we tell you what to do, and if you don't follow our instructions, we need to make you do this. Like, this is a requirement. We have to do this. It's part of our job. Maybe it's just to get you to the hospital. So we're going to have to get you there today. And with these types of situations, what I think we've learned in this training is, if you just take your time and you are compassionate and you kind of get on you have to try to see it from what they're seeing, what they're hearing.
Correct.
They will start to respond to you.
So what would you guys tell a parent? Like you guys, let's go back to the stigma. Let's face it, it is what it is. There is a stigma there. What do you tell a parent? Because I've been an officer for a long time. I'm educating myself as the department educates us, which is awesome. But the parents, they can give certain information out to our dispatchers, right?
Right.
While we're on our way, so the officer doesn't walk into an aggressive situation.
That's the big thing, is that if they are off their medication, or if they have taken some sort of illegal drug or some drug that's not, literally give us what's going on. Because again, if we know what's going on before we walk into it, a lot of times, there might be a little bit of a delay as far as like, okay, you know what, let me get another guy here. If there's, if an officer the size of Zena's coming and the person who's in crisis is a guy my size, she's gonna want to know that. She's gonna want to know that, hey, this guy's,
and are they
6'1" and he's violent.
Right.
He's tearing up the house. So she's gonna be like, okay, I think I'm gonna wait for a couple more officers before, because that's the one thing you never want to do. You just don't want to run into.
That's important, right? That's important for us to know.
Yes.
Have they ever attempted before?
Well, they're out their medication too, and that's what people understand, is that if they haven't taken their medication for a little bit, they're literally not thinking rationally.
Right.
So they might not be able to control the behavior that they're displaying.
So the officer should know that.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes they're off their medication for several days before the parent even realizes they're not taking their medication. They're starting to act out, and we're starting to see it now.
And so you guys, like I said, the calls that I've gone on, when I get that information, I just want to bring it back to it again, stress the importance to our viewers out there from two specialized trained officers here. That information is so important to get to our dispatch to give to us, because if I don't have that information, all I see is an aggressive person maybe that charges out of the house towards my patrol car. That information. Without that information, all I see is someone potentially coming to attack me,
Right.
and I'm obligated, obviously, to protect myself and other citizens around me. So
That's,
Right.
that's
it's
really
critical
too,
information, right, guys?
Absolutely.
And that's where the big thing is that I guess the one thing that I would say for families is that we're not judging the family by any means. This is something that we deal with literally. Like I said, you know, it's fun. Before the training we dealt with it, and you're like, okay, yeah, we just kind of did it. But after the training, you're like, I'm literally realizing like, oh my, like I am doing
Right.
this every day. I am enacting this training, and it's like, you know, there's not a stigma there for the family. It's like, I want to be able to come there and I want to be a resource for the family. I want to be able to say, okay, hey, this is here. Let's formulate a game plan. You know, I want to get people who are in crises back to a good state, especially like the
Right.
youth, get them back to a good state because, and I've had parents do this. They'll call me like, oh my goodness, Officer Joe. You know, that's what everybody calls me like out here in West Bloomfield, Officer Joe. So, you know, hey, can you stop by my son or daughters that you worked with? Can you stop by their graduation party? They graduated from school. You know,
guys, let's
that's
give
the good stuff.
Let's give Chief Patton and Deputy Chief Lawson some credit here.
Oh,
They-
absolutely.
They,
Yeah, for
they
sure.
are really
I
on
agree.
the forefront
Yes.
as far as providing this
Advocates.
type of education, and they're huge advocates for our community.
Yes.
So this is something, again, as one of the veteran guys on the department. I remember back in 1994 when I first started. Okay,
That was
we did not
98,
have
so.
this training, and we dealt with every subject like it is what it is, folks. We dealt with people like you see
Right.
on TV. But I'm grateful and thankful to have this opportunity for this training, and so I'm glad I'm working with two specialized officers. I know I'll get the training myself, so I'd like to acknowledge them for that.
And you know, we're lucky because we also get training throughout the year. We have in-house training, and we also get little tidbits coming in. People that do come in represent Oakland County Mental Health, Common Ground, that
Exactly.
do
Yes.
also refresh
Yep.
all the
Yes.
department while we're still getting everybody through the CIT.
And then the big thing too is just as a whole, like the departments within Oakland County are really pressing to get it. So it's definitely nice that we're kind of like that department that's almost trying to make it department wide. So yeah, it's a lot of credit to our upper command for that.
Yeah.
I agree.
So we're getting ready to close out the show here in just a couple minutes. Tell the viewers what mental health through an officer's eyes, just if you can give them a tidbit, any information that potentially they could share with our calls that come in, whether or not it's a subject that feels down, it may be potentially suicidal, a drug crises, something of that nature.
Right.
Give, and then Z, you do the same thing because you guys are both trained up on it. But give us something.
I think for me the biggest thing is just we need to with information. Information is always going to be power. The more information you can give me, the less likely it has to escalate to a physical situation. The more tools that I know in our tools in our toolbox that I'm going to be able to pull out and use because I have all the information I need. If it's something where it's, you know, drug issue, or if it's a lack of drug issue or whatever, if it's just a bipolar state, whatever it is.
Should they call 911?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And again, don't be afraid to share that information because ultimately it's going to give that family the best service because we do have that information.
And for the parents, I would say that, you know, they don't know, they feel like their hands are tied, they don't know where to go, what to do. And I've been asked this, you know, what could I do? My son's bipolar, who could I turn to? Common Ground, Oakland County Mental Health has so many resources. You really should contact them because that's a good start, just to get you going in the direction that you need to go for whatever situation you're in.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for another exciting episode of West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer David McNealy.
I'm Officer Zena Dailey.
And I'm
Officer
Officer
Miller.
Joe Miller.
Joe, thanks for coming
Again
on.
for guys
Really
having us
appreciate
here,
it.
So.
Folks, you can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. You can also catch the show on civiccentertv.com. And for the most up-to-date information, you can check out any public safety-related issues on nixle.com. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.